Welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats, and I hope everyone had a safe and fun Thanksgiving this year. Obviously, a lot of the traditions and a lot of the usual holiday plans were changed or altered because of the conditions of the world right now. So, however you're able to make lemonade out of the lemons you're given, I hope it was fantastic. And for me, it was a different kind of Thanksgiving meal because it was a full vegan Thanksgiving. So I was notified about a week before Thanksgiving that I was going to have to make dinner for myself. And I know I didn't want to have turkey or roast because with me being the only non-vegan in the house, that would mean I have a lot of leftovers that I did not want. I knew my brother wanted to have his casseroles, his roast as part of that main dinner if we were going to have it at my mother's. Then I thought, might as well, if he's going to make it, might as well make that the main attraction, and added a few side dishes that were also vegan. And the only thing that was non-vegan was the apple pie that I got at Whole Foods. It was also one of those half apple pies, not the full thing, because I just feel extremely guilty if I ate a whole pie to myself. So it was good. It was different. It was odd because I would eat, let's say, the roast, and it would make me think that I am eating a meat roast because it has that look. It has this kind of not the same chewiness, but the same kind of like density, a little bit heavy thickness. But I didn't feel heavy afterwards. So that was an interesting part of it all. So I took about 4 or 5 days off from thinking about podcast work, but it felt weird not doing something. So I'm here to bring everyone a brand new episode post Thanksgiving 2020. We're almost done with the year. And I wanted to bring on someone that I absolutely admired, as I've seen her work during her time at Duck TV, Lexi Sloan. So I met her, while we were both with Duck TV, and she was with Claire Larson as a part of Damsels in Control, and their work was just amazing. So it was very creative, it was very funny, and the cinematography was very well done. So I was very starstruck to think that someone that is my age is producing something of this magnitude or this quality. So, I mean, where there's a little bit of jealousy, sure, because I would take that. I see jealousy as more of a motivator, because it's like, if she can do it, I can do it. Why am I having some struggles? So it could go down a little bit of a dark path, but the main thing for me was just that I saw this woman creating this amazing content with, this pair of women making this amazing content. And I knew I just wanted to be like that too. I wanted to try to get to that level. And, it was very awesome to get to talk to her and talk to her about her experiences with that. Before we dive into my chat with Lexi Sloan, I just want to remind everyone that there is a DC Animated Universe review series that I am always going to work on, but actually I'm getting pretty close to catching up to 2020. 2018 is officially released, so if you want to check that out, go to keoniconlu.com, keoniconlu.com. If you are on your phone, hit the menu button. If you are on your laptop, click the blogs tab. Go to the DC image, click on that, and that should take you to 2019, as well as all the other years that I've reviewed so far. So some entries will have 2 years, one will just have 1, just because I try to do 5 to 6 films per entry, depending on the year and how many fall within that year. So 2019, which I am about 2 films away from finishing, that should be coming out soon, so keep a lookout for that. So whether you are listening to this episode through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and now on Google Podcasts, or if you want to check it out on also YouTube, a video version, I hope you enjoy my chat with Lexi Sloan. Oh, chic, so stylish. Lexi Sloan is in the virtual building today, trying to stay awake because we both just talked about how we're both in our pajama bottoms still from the day. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. So I thought, I always try to find a fun way to start these episodes, and I got it as soon as we were talking before we started recording about ice cream. So for those people that are just checking in, Lexi and I, we talked before starting the interview about how people can overcomplicate a simple ice cream sandwich. And in April 2018, Justin Hunn did a profile series on you, and he introduced you as a connoisseur of fine ice cream. And then also a little bit later, you visit the ice cream museum. Where did your love for ice cream come from?
First of all, I just want to shout out Justin. He is hilariously phenomenal. Um, ice cream is so good and you can eat it year round. Disclaimer, I'm in California, although I did eat it year round when I was in Oregon. So even on the coldest days, you just sit by a heater and you eat your ice cream faster than it can melt. But it's just so good. Like, I can't explain it. There's so many different flavors and varieties, and I could go on for forever, but Ben and Jerry's is everything, especially during this pandemic. I've spent a lot of time and money at the grocery store with Ben and Jerry's, and I have not regretted a single moment of it.
Favorite flavor from Ben and Jerry's, or top 2 or 3?
Okay, so there's new flavors that just came out recently. One is Chip Happens, and it's potato chips in chocolate ice cream. And I was skeptical at first. I see that. It's perfect. It's perfection. They found a way to like make either the replica potato chip bits or whatever I'm actually eating taste like potato chips that didn't get soggy from the ice cream. And it's just so good. And then they also have a peanut butter cookie dough. There we go. There are words for you.
Yeah.
It's a peanut butter cookie dough. So it's peanut butter ice cream, chocolate ice cream mixed together with peanut butter cookie dough bits and brownie bits. Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And chocolate is your thing, so that one probably just hit you over the edge.
Chocolate and peanut butter, like that's a golden combination. I approve of it beyond words.
So let's say a gentleman is trying to court you and trying to get your attention. Would giving you Reese's peanut butter cups and this ice cream be the good way to your heart?
Yes and no. Like this ice cream, 1,000%. And I used to be obsessed with Reese's peanut butter cups, but like as of late, they've started tasting a little bit like too processed. Like I've kind of moved into that section of my life where I'm like, that's processed food, and I'm like really absorbed the LA-ness of being here and being like a little bit more natural. So like more natural variety would be more ideal than Reese's peanut butter, like Justin's peanut butter cups, or like even the Trader Joe's ones, dark chocolate almond cups.
Yep.
Yes, easiest way to my heart is through my stomach.
So when you visit the ice cream museum, how much did you geek out? Because I know for myself, I have some pop figures behind me. I want to go to the museum there or to their headquarters. I would geek out so hard. How hard did you geek out?
So much. I went with my best friend, and she also loves ice cream. Like we just eat junk food together all the time. It's a really healthy relationship. And around every corner, they have different ice creams to like match the room themes, and they have like that giant sprinkle pit that's like really fun to play in and also really gross when you think about it at the same time. So you've got a lot of mixed feelings, and it's so fun. And then at the last station, they had this like it was this black cookie dough thing, and they hand you like a ball of cookie dough that's like that big. And I took a bite and I wasn't ready for it to be cookie dough. I thought it was like a weird new ice cream thing. There was a lot of emotion happening in that moment, but you leave feeling like the right amount of nauseous where you're like, okay, now I need like a quick bite of salad or something.
Yeah.
Give you a lot of ice cream, but it was great. It was definitely a lot of fun.
I'm always finding myself wanting some water, some liquids, because the sugar from, let's say, the ice cream and then the cone, or if it's a little cup, that's good too. But I can't resist the cone sometimes. It's just the extra little crunch at the end. It's just
A good waffle cone. Yeah.
Ooh. So You were in Oregon before heading down to the CA. Now, Oregon's fairly known for having its individual ice creams, as far as Salt and Straw and some other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. That's probably the most prominent one. Do you miss any of our locally grown ice cream shops?
No, because in Venice we have our own Salt and Straw, and in
Hey.
Marina Del Rey, or is that the same one? There's two Salt and Straws near me,
Mm.
so no. And they just opened one near Disneyland too, like in downtown Disney. So I get a little taste of Oregon pretty much everywhere I am around here.
Oh, there you go. I know. I follow Dwayne Johnson on Instagram, and I believe on one of his cheat days, he had Salt and Straw ice cream. He said this was his favorite. And I was just like, yes,
Yeah.
go Oregon.
Yeah. Oregon does a lot right, and ice cream is definitely one of them.
Yeah. So when I met you, you were at the University of Oregon and the Journalism School of Communications. I always feel like I have to pep that up when I say it like that because Rebecca Force still stuck in my head. So I saw your first Duck TV because we were a part of that same program. The first Damsels in Control, I should say. And I have to admit, I was starstruck. I was like, what? This person in this same room created this amazing piece of videography, and so we didn't really have a kind of a friendship when in Duck TV because I would just say hi occasionally, and we kind of cross paths. But now I'm talking to you, and this has been like a whole like, whew, cool. Uh, Tell me, how did you meet Claire Larson, your damsel in crime, like partners in
Oh,
crime, kind of thing?
Damsels in Control.
Damsels in Control partner. How did you meet her?
So Claire and I met the first term of senior year. Um, I went to a Duck TV screening and I was not going with my friend who normally goes with me. And so I just sat in a new place. And I think Claire sat next to me, or like I sat next to her. Something happened where we ended up sitting next to each other and we were just talking, and just instant friendship came up. Um, and then honestly from there, like we were pretty inseparable senior year, and it just, like, the creativity started flowing. We did hashtag blessed the next term together and really just formed our core team. And we had our two PAs, Miranda and Megan, whom I absolutely love. And then they went on to do their own show. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to keep doing ours with our core group. And that was Damsels in Control, with Clay and Jake. And that was more of like an improv sketch thing, versus Blessed was more of the written full episodes. So that was a fun challenge. Also getting Clay and Jake, mostly Clay, on board with some like more guerrilla shooting styles, as Claire and I liked to just pop our ideas out there and just kind of run with it. We liked to mess with Clay a lot, doing that. But those guys were everything. Like it was a really solid team, and that creativity with the four of us really just blew up through those two terms. And we were able to create really fun content that really propelled me into like realizing the potential and like the enjoyment of filming and creating. And that was kind of the start of it all.
Do you have an easy time making friends?
No, I don't. I mean, just, like, I haven't really had a chance to text you back too often because I'm constantly busy and constantly exhausted, and like making friends and taking time to actually get to know people to make genuine friendships is really exhausting and well worth it. Once you actually find a real friend. But in LA, there's so much networking
Mm.
that it's not really like friendship. A lot of people will like reach out to you for coffee and you're like, oh cool, like we're starting to build a friendship. And then it turns into more of like a, what can you do for me? Like if we partner on this, and it's like, okay. So there's a weird like LA vibe to friendship that doesn't really get talked about a lot. But I do know like a lot of people in the industry struggle with forming like true friendships, because a lot of people just kind of are like, there for this term, but then when they get busy, they'll drop you. And it's not intentional. It's not malicious. That's just the nature of LA, is you're just constantly going so fast. And you gotta, really have that connection if you want to hold on to that friendship. So it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And because I always hear that LA is so kind of isolated. You are kind of working on your own now, but when you're in Eugene, obviously you're in school, you're there for 4 years, you're committed to the education, and then you kind of make friends through the class because you're working with them on projects. So what was that like your first, let's say, couple months going from that kind of close knit Eugene family style home to LA where you are kind of out on your own?
Yeah, it was a very crazy transition because I went from like, either being with my best friend Mary, like, we lived together senior year, or being at Claire's, or being with like Claire and Jake and Clay. And, you had your core groups, and to coming out here, leaving them in Oregon because they were going to come out later. And I have family out here, so I was ready to come, back home. You immediately felt separated. And without a career to like start making friends with your coworkers, you had to bounce back. I babysat for like 3 or 4 months with some of the old families I used to sit for, just to get some sort of like normality while I was applying for jobs, reconnecting with, any high school friends that also moved back home, or, trying to find out how to actually network. Like I had a few friends who are already in the industry, so getting together with them and like truly figuring out what next steps could be.
Mm.
But I mean, that until you really land like your first real gig, unless you left solid friendships, back home or whatever it may be, it was a lot to handle. But like luckily I had those families to fall back on, and people that I really trusted, in them. So it was really comforting in that way to have them. But
What was some of the advice you got as far as helping you get into the industry now, or just advice that you got from like family or friends that kind of help you get through those tough times?
I mean, it's tough because a lot of the advice people give you when you're first starting out is it's who you know. It's all who you know. So then you're immediately thrown into start networking, start like grabbing on. And I think that that's where our bad habits come from, of like everyone you meet is a potential networking employee, instead of, oh, friend, maybe we can create something together and then expand from there based off of our different opportunities. So you're immediately like going to networking events, doing this, and everyone says like, oh, it's all who you know. So start like asking around and start, you've got family who aren't in the industry or more old school, and they're like, just email them, just do this. And you're like, I can't email the CEO of Warner Brothers. Like, that's not how this industry works.
Yeah.
So a lot of practical navigating and trying to find like just different ways in, because I also didn't know what I wanted to do. So just knowing like all I have to do is get my foot in the door somewhere, then I can build on from there. Yeah, it's really just getting your foot in the door somewhere.
Yeah.
That's really it.
So yeah, I've gotten a couple since UVO. I've gone to a few jobs, maybe I think like 2 or 3 part-timers, and then I finally got the two. I had two I call it adult jobs, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, and they were receptionist positions. And I know that's people are like, oh, you're a receptionist, or oh, you're just an office manager, but it's like it's a foot in the door. It's
Yeah.
for me to at least like examine how the operation goes, and then see how I can work to get myself in marketing or sales or whatever it could be.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the 2 companies I work for, they don't have a strict journalism and communications department. So I'm finding my niche somehow, some way.
Right. And it's all about just testing different things. I would have gladly taken a receptionist job if that was the first thing that pops into my, my networking area.
Mm,
Then yeah, why not? You never know. That's the thing that I learned the most, is I try to form genuine connections and friendships with people, but you never know where the next thing is going to land.
mm,
Like just by saying something to my friend, he was like, oh, I have this opportunity that I just saw someone post about on Facebook. Do you want this? And then I took that. And then it like, it all snowballed from there. So I'm a big fan of like, not just taking the first thing that comes at you, unless that's what you're, ready for that risk. But I love that. Why not?
So 2 episodes ago, I had my friend Jacob, who works for Nike, and he really emphasized that it's important for him to keep those connections that he established, with his previous stops at the retail stores, because Yeah, you never know. Someday he might come across a position like, oh yeah, that one guy I worked with, or hey, Keoni, when I worked at Nike Bowling with him, he'd be great for this position. And at that point, I'm very flattered. I'm like, oh, he remembers me. I thought it was just that silent post in the corner.
Yeah, but it's so important for you to just like just those random connections, because all the time there's people that are like, oh, do you have anyone for this? And I'm like, okay, well I think this person might be perfect for that. Let me check if they're free. And I might not have talked to this person in 6 8 months,
Mhm.
but I worked with them on whatever it was. And like, you never know. So if you built that solid connection with them, and that's great.
Are you still connected with anyone at the Young Artist Ensemble, one of your first jobs as a stage manager?
Not really. You've got those Facebook
Yep.
connections and you'll occasionally like a photo or whatnot. But as far as like true connections with them, no, that was where I grew up. I grew up acting on that stage, and then I transitioned into more of a stage management role. And I love it. And I owe a lot of learning curves to them, but that wasn't like a true connection type thing that I kept up.
Yeah. So when you think to, we'll talk about the job you have now a little bit later, but when you think back to where you are right now and then where you were, back at as stage manager, and you see that growth, that path you went on, what do you think?
I think it's crazy because I stage managed. I don't even know, was I in college? I think I was like home for that year or something. I honestly don't remember. But like to know that this growth was possible in 6 8 years, whatever it's been, is crazy to me. Like it's just such a wild concept. Like to think, because I did that and I had the stage management from a theater company on my resume, I was able to get my friend to give me a foot in the door at the theater company that I'm now one of the lead producers for. And like, that's just, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy how you never know, just like the simplest things that you did for fun, just to keep
Mhm.
yourself entertained, like truly shape your entire life. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I'm doing this podcast, and you'll be episode 29. But I know don't know where this is going to take me, but I'm having a great time doing this. Great time getting to connect with you and hearing your story and hearing about how you're one of the lead producers for. Is it IAMA? Is that
Yes,
what it's
I am a,
IAMA?
I am a.
And that is the place you refer to as being the lead producer, at, correct? Tell me about that position. How is it being the person that helps this theater company go?
It's, the only word I can use to describe it is wild. It, it's absolutely insane. Like I feel so lucky to have like pushed my way into this world. This group is talented beyond belief, and filled with like great theater talent, great television talent, great people too. Like the fact that they trust me with producing their shows is so exciting to me. Like I feel like I'm doing it. Like it's such a weird milestone. There's so many different things. You're like, oh, I got my first industry job. I did it. Oh, I work here. But there's not really like for me at least, goal in mind of like, oh, well, when I'm a producer for this, that's when I know I've made it. But being a producer in this theater company, not only is theater just something so special because you really do just become these like crazy people that know too much about each other. And that's like really where the bond forms. But it's just such a special way to create. And so knowing that these people trust me with this company that they built, I think they're in their 12th or 13th season now. And like for a theater company in LA to be that, to be 12 years old, to be this successful, to have Shonda Rhimes backs it and donates a bunch of money, and just a really well connected but like good group of people. I just feel so lucky that like they trusted me to be a part of it, and that I was able to keep pushing. And last season they asked me if I wanted to do the whole season, and I was like, that's the craziest offer that someone could have made me. Like someone really not just trust me with like a show, but they want me to do 3 shows. They want me to do their first musical. They want like just overwhelmed and exhausted by the end, of course, but like so grateful. And the team that I was able to work with the I Am a team and then the team that I was able to hire to work with me, just phenomenal. Like I couldn't have done it on my own. And I definitely recognize that. And so having them like trust me enough to do what I need to do to get my team on board. No, 8 years ago, I never would have thought that would have been possible. I envisioned these people as like real adults. Like I hang out with them. They have husbands or kids or wives or whatever. And you're like, wow, I'm hanging out with like real big kids right now. They're real humans.
Yeah.
And they trust me. Like life is crazy. I don't know. It's crazy.
Were you worried at all? Because that is a lot of pressure to put on someone that, depending on where you are, how far is comfortable in your career, it's like, holy crap, oh man, how'd you handle that?
I don't know. I'm still handling that. No, honestly, it all relates back to the team because I was, there's things that I know I can do. And then whenever I had questions, like the two people that I directly worked with that are I Am a staff, like absolute angels. Simbri and Laura are like, I love them so much. Could not have done it without them. Like I had a quick question or like if I needed guidance on something, and especially with these virtual productions that I'm doing with them, there's so many questions up there. So like having us work together as a team and them guided is like, it's just really, it's all about the team and all about that ease with it. So that's, yeah.
Hey, we got some tap dancing in the background.
Oh yeah. No, my roommate just came home.
Tell us it hi. So I watched a lot of TV. I watched a lot of movies. Can you dive a little further as far as the producer role? What do they do exactly? Or what do you do specifically?
Wow. I get this question a lot. So you think I'd have like a more concise answer, or I should build out like a job description for what I do. I don't
with
know.
bullet points and
Yeah.
yeah.
The initial startup is getting the directors what they need as far as designers go, hiring those designers, making sure that the designers are all in contact and have what they need for success. And then from there, it's really just making sure everybody has exactly what they need, is comfortable, especially the actors feel like safe and in good hands. And then, leading that team through it all. So it always gets crazy, especially during like load in and tech week, towards the end before the show's about to go up, when you're pulling, 10, 12-hour days and back to back to back. And you've got to kind of keep morale high, and you got to make sure that everybody feels like they're doing their job because they know the rest of the wheels are turning. And it's your job to make sure that all of the wheels are turning and to make sure that everybody knows that you've got their back. And there's definitely been times, especially during the musical, which was just like a crazy nutty experience, where things would just fall and burst into flames. And you're like, that's going to take the entire, like, how are we going to put this fire out? And we did it. And that came with a lot of people either putting their heads together and thinking quick on their feet and really building up the, like, we've got each other's backs. And the artistic directors, like, this is such a hands-on theater company that knowing that, like, if I needed help and I was feeling like I'm drowning because there are explosions all around me, that there are 5, 6, 7 people that are like, I got your back. And that's what makes this company so successful. It's truly the team camaraderie, like building each other up, really being there for each other. I had like, something happened in January where I was supposed to be on 3 calls when I got home from work. And I was like, guys, I'm leaving work early. I cannot be on calls. I can't do it. And my associate producer was like, I got your back. And the artistic director was like, we got you, don't worry. And it's like knowing that I needed that day to do what I needed to do, and they had my back. It was, that's really what made it a success, is the team.
So for me, I'm okay with asking for help, but sometimes I have a hard time getting to that point. Like sometimes like pressure builds up in my chest. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to ask this person for help because I feel like it could put more on their plate versus me make sure my place. I always think of like a busy life as like you're in a buffet line and you're, you know, putting more and more on your plate, and then next thing you know, like your plate's overflowing, and then you just wasted money. But so
You feel
so
sick.
that's why, like with my positions, like I figured my plate's always going to be as empty, or there should be more space on my plate versus others. So that's why instead of asking for help, I offer it to people. But for you, how are you with like that lead up to asking for help? Are you like, I can do this myself, I'm fine, I believe in myself, I'm gonna push myself? Or are you just like, this I know, you know when to tap out?
I mean, it's both, and I think that knowing how to master both is truly what has allowed me to be trusted as the producer for these shows. Um, I can take on a lot. Like I can carry like 4 different plates at once, and you know all of that. And before one breaks, you have to know when to ask for help, and that really all comes down to like, again, building the team that you trust, because you have to be able to trust them to tell them that you're drowning, to trust them to pick up the pieces of like the plate that you need to hand over. But you also need to be responsible enough to take a look at this plate and be like, no, no, I can't. Grab a plate, here's what you need to do. And you start delegating things off of your plate until you can handle it and leave room for more to pile on, because inevitably fires are going to happen that only you can deal with. You have to deal with it in that instant. That's not something you can pass off. So finding that balance is the biggest thing. Balancing, and then your team trusting that. Bless you.
Bless you.
Doing great.
Team effort. So
Yeah. Yeah. He has been blessed.
hashtag it.
Blessed.
So producer, you do a ton of work behind the cameras, but you have been in front of the cameras. So like with, let's say, Duck TV, for example, and then you have, I believe you've done some plays. I can't really name them off the top of my head. What kind of adrenaline do you feel? What kind of like exhilaration do you feel when you're finally in front of the camera after being behind the cameras for so much?
It's a lot. I mean, just in February, right before everything happened, I was in a reading at a local playhouse, the Pico Playhouse, and it was the first time that I had been on stage since, I don't even know. Like, I don't know, probably like high school, you know, because college I mostly did film. And it was exhilarating and terrifying. And, you know, like I've put up like 6-7 shows or whatever it's been. So I have been in the theater scene. You know, I've seen it. I've seen the people walking in, and I've seen the energy and the actors that come on stage and the rush of all of it. And it's like, I'm always like, oh, I want to be back there. Like, that's my ultimate goal, is to be back there. But for right now, like, this is my time to like push you on stage. So when I got that chance in February, I mean, it was amazing. Like I felt so at home, but so terrified, but so comfortable, because I was with my other theater company, Ammunition Theater Company. And again, you surround yourself, especially in LA, like that's what I've been learning. You surround yourself with the people you want your energy to reflect. And in the audience was some people from I Am a Theater Company, because there's a lot of crossover. You know, the Ammo family that was putting on the show. I had some really good friends in the audience. So you felt safe. Like, even though it was terrifying and there's so many strangers, I still felt safe. Like, I felt safe on stage. I felt safe knowing that my castmates had their parts done. I only had to like remember, you know, what I needed to know, and it flowed, and it was the best feeling, especially considering 2 weeks later, shutdown happens. So, you know, to really go out with that like performance was really, really amazing.
Did you catch yourself with any kind of rust, any kind of like, oh, I need to shake up the cobwebs and then I can get back to how I know I can perform?
Honestly, it was like riding a bike. You know,
Hey.
I got that script in hand, and we did the first table read. And at first I felt like an imposter, because all these people were around me. And like, you know, you have people ranging from like, you know, people who've done theater with our company for years, to people who just got off the big screen, to people who had their new, one of my good friends just had her video game come out. Like she does motion capture for that. And like, you look around the table and you're like, I'm just a producer. Are they going to realize that I haven't acted in like, like, and you just have to be like, they don't know this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to literally just force those thoughts out of your head and just be like, they know exactly what you are about to put out, and that's it. So just put out what you know. And I received a lot of compliments for it, and that felt amazing to know that I fooled them into knowing that I could do it, because I knew it, like
Yeah.
it was that whole cycle of like, I knew I could do it. Now I have to fool them into thinking that they think that I can do it. So at the end, when they said I did it, I was like, haha. And it was just an added layer of fun.
Oh, there you go. I mean, so is there any kind of, like, I don't think there is, because the theater community seems like a very friendly community. Is there any kind of conflict between theater groups and theater groups? Because for some reason, when you're talking about how, we had both the ammo company and then the IMA, and for some reason I was thinking like West Side Story, they're gonna have like
Yeah.
a fight in the alley with stabbing their fingers. I was like, I don't think there is, because it seems very friendly, but I don't know if you've heard of anything like that.
No, I mean, honestly, from what I've experienced and from what I know that other people have experienced, is this theater community is strong. Like, people in LA theater do it because you love theater. You are not doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the praise. You're not doing it for the glory. Like, you are doing it for the love of theater. And where you can overlap and help each other out, it's like you have a giant theater community all at whole, like as if it's Duck TV. Like, if all of a sudden, this other show needed to borrow our camera, or I needed to go like operate boom on set for them for one day because their team was out, like, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because like, you are the Duck TV community. This is the LA theater community. And we just all have different like ways of going about it and different visions. But at the end of the day, like, no, there's so much overlap, and so many people like are in multiple theater companies that it's just a good community all around.
That would make for a great, like, collaboration show, West Side Story, both of your theater groups. Oh
Yeah.
man,
Right.
just with the popped collars, leather
Oh
jackets,
yeah.
snapping, slick over hair.
Oh,
Ooh,
they got it. We got it. We're ready.
you're right. You're right. I believe in you. So, uh, now, oh, there was something else I was going to ask you, because there's so many things. Uh,
Oh my God.
there, what would you say is your kind of proudest moment when it came to being a producer with IMA? Because I can't just say proudest moment being a producer overall, because that's a lot. So when you were with IMA, so what would you say what has been your proudest producer moment, or maybe like a good compliment you got that helped you kind of push yourself to be a little better?
I mean, my proudest moment with IAMA was this February when our musical went up. Like, that was blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm not even joking you. There was definite blood. My friend came to help. We had a last minute emergency with our lighting designer, and my friend came to help hold ladders for safety. We needed those extra bodies, and he definitely like got blood, cut his hand on the ladder. Not dramatically, just like a little like cut, but there's plenty of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of my tears went into that. But just when that show finally went up, and opening night, and that opening night party, and that team was special, and the cast was something special, and everything was so, the odds were against us in so many different arenas, and so many things went wrong, but at the end of the day, we put up this phenomenal musical, and it was just a stellar musical on its own, let alone like the like collaboration and like the largeness of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the craziness that we had to go through. So overall, yes, like that was it.
So that musical is called Found, and it was I was gonna say released. That's not the right word for it. It was premiered in February of early this year. So now I don't think I got the date for specifically when in February, but tail end February, that's when COVID happened. Now, this is actually the question I was about to ask you, but then came to me like a bolt of lightning. So how has the theater community been with dealing with the pandemic, dealing with COVID, and just trying to make sure that at what point do you are you eager to get back there and work with everyone, obviously with all the good CDC restrictions in order, or are you just like, let's wait this out until it's complete?
It's a mixture of both because right now I have two I Am a shows. So they are one person shows and they're virtual productions. So we're filming them, but we're filming them as theater like as possible to really continue to hold that, since we are a theater company at heart, not a film company. So finding that balance in itself. And we have they're one person shows. I'm only producing two of them, but Tom DeTrinis' show is filming right now with a different team. And there's CDC guidelines. We have COVID compliance officers. You know, we are doing everything to keep our cast and crew safe because that's priority. And doing theater the best we can during this pandemic, because just sitting still and sitting on our hands is tough as creatives, as people who crave theater. Is, you know, we want that content. We want to be back in the theater. So we're doing everything as safely as possible to continue to create. But yeah, I mean, it's, as far as like getting back into a room and having people there, like, I just don't know when that's going to happen again. And that's really tough to kind of come to terms with, and something that I think, you know, myself definitely, but like probably a lot of us are still in denial about, like, oh, well, like once we have this vaccine, like we can, you know, but the reality is you got to have the vaccine, you got to have the time that comes with it, and then another round. And who knows if that's going to be 6-8 months or 2 years. And so we've adapted the best we can, and we will continue to adapt to make sure that theater is happening in the only way that it can, safely, and then consumed safely until we can get back on the stage. And that's, you know, all we can really do right now.
So I don't know if you can see, I have a WWE belt right there, like right there. So my brother and I have sort of re-indulged in it because it's kind of fun. So they were doing basically that, where it's like they're trying to host these shows, but just having like extras from the back as is, you know, the audience on the side. But recently they moved to what they call the Thunderdome, and the NBA also did this, where they had a bunch of screens with people on like Zoom chats watching, you know, being engaged. If you had all the money in the world, would that be something you'd be interested in, to bring the theater back as an option?
That's so tough. I mean, that's a theater company decision, and that's, I think, company by company, because everyone has like their own thoughts on it and their own way of processing during these times. I would be interested to see it, but it's also, theater is such a crazy beast where like you feed so much off of the energy of your audience. And I think that would be an interesting test to see, if you have like a family of four sitting here watching you perform all on Zoom, but they're on a screen, what that energy is that they give back. Or like all of a sudden they like have their phone and they start texting, and you can't really do much about it because they're not in your theater to like have said that. And then, you know, like there's so many different ways to go about it. It's not quite the same as sports. So I honestly, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to try it to see if it works. But theater's just so unique. You know, you
Yeah.
really feed off of it, and that's tough to recreate when you've got screens. Screens
Yeah.
make the world difficult.
Plus, there have been some times in the NBA, like during the finals, where there'd be a little bit of a delay. So it's like, oh, they shoot the 3-point and they made it, and then everyone's like cheering, and then like you hear the sound, and then like 2 seconds later, you see the people actually like reacting, like woo! It's like, oh, that's a tad off.
Yeah. And if it's
So
theater, like, do you mute them? Because who knows if there's a car driving loudly behind them, or, you know, like there's,
yeah,
I think live performance is so interesting. It's going to be, you know, all about adaptation and finding the way that your theater company runs with it,
yeah.
or holds until the world's back. And like plenty of people are doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Side note, before we actually started, like let's say maybe like 5 minutes before, there was a car alarm going off. You know, when you bring up car alarm, I was about to stomp outside and be like, who's doing this? Because like I have a recording to do. It's like I want to make sure it's good silence.
Yeah, no, Zoom is great at like muting some noises. Like there's a loud helicopter yesterday, and I asked, people if they could hear it, and they said no, but it's like really loud for me. And then sometimes you're like, wait, what do you mean you heard that like pin drop across the hall? And
Yeah.
it's very weird time we're in.
It really is. It really is. But luckily, with this time, I'm able to have these interviews with you and all the way from California. So it's not too weird because, I'm thinking about at first, when everything went kind of dipped as far as the cases, I was like, oh, maybe I can have my first like in-person interview. But then, when the time came where like, oh, I can finally schedule him, then it spiked up again. I was like, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. I don't know what that is, in-person interviews anymore.
Yeah. I don't know what hugging strangers or friends feel like,
Yeah. Luckily I live with my brother, so I can hug him whenever I want. And, we're a close family. So it can get from a hugging to a wrestling match, which I told you how that went earlier.
Apparently not well for you.
No, my hip is in pain. My left one.
Oh, you figured out which side. Okay.
Yeah, it's starting to cramp up a little bit, but
great.
Anywho, back to
I hope your hip's okay.
Thank you. A lot of people may have said that I have an old man syndrome now because my hip can hurt. Then I think my right knee tends to cramp up when it's cold outside. Mm-hmm. So it's
you peaked.
I've hit. I'm right here. And goodbye, guys.
Bye.
No, have you hiked at oh god, I think it's Spencer's Butte in Eugene?
I feel like I did.
I think it's the one near 30th Avenue, like near Lane Community College. I think that's Spencer's. I could be wrong.
I honestly cannot remember if I hiked at all, or if I did. I'm not an avid hiker, so to remember if I hiked or not is a weird. I feel like I did once. I'm gonna say yes. I did once, and it was wonderful and beautiful, and Oregon's great. That's my final answer.
So the hike there, it's kind of like a little bit of a plateau, and then kind of goes up a little bit. Obviously, you get to the top, and then there's a side road or this another path you can going downwards or going back down to the parking lot where it's straight vertical. That's why I was like, well, plateau, hit the top. Now old man syndrome, going straight down.
I remember this so clearly from Spencer's Butte.
Thank you for going along with it.
Yeah, I got you. No, hiking's wonderful. It's great.
So there was a film that I wanted to ask you whether you were a part of, but I was trying to find your credits on IMDb, which this is my first ever guest that has their own IMDb page. This is awesome. I'm sorry. I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a film called Boys Don't Wear Dresses, and it's about autistic transgender, and it won some awards, which I unfortunately did not take notes of. But what was your role in that film, and how was it being a part of that kind of storytelling?
Yeah, so that film, I was one of the producers for, and Boys Don't Wear Dresses is just a beautiful film. It's created through a nonprofit organization called Spec Labs, and they work with young adults on the spectrum to bring them arts. So they have an improv class, there's a music class, there's an acting class. It's really beautiful, the work that they do and create, and the outlet that they give and keep creating with. So Boys Don't Wear Dresses was written by Alani Shorin, and she transitioned, I believe, a year or two ago, and or still in the middle of transitioning. And her story is beautiful. She is on the autism spectrum and does not let that slow her down at all. And her energy is infectious, and her parents are just the most wonderful people, and supportive people. And really she had this vision of telling her story in a film, and Spec Labs is, the place to do that, the place that they're yes, you have the story, let's bring this together, and let's bring this to life. And they did it, and it was just a beautiful collaboration to watch Alani's story come to life, to see her words on paper, to be a part of it. And it's, oh, sorry, that's a loud car. Zoom, it's not perfect. uh, but her story was beautiful. And the moment that it was brought to me by Jason Weisbrod from Spec Labs, I heard it and was like, I'm in. Like, this is the content that I want to be a part of. The changing of the world, the telling your own story, especially when it's unique like this one, and getting it out into the world to help show other people who might be wondering if they can do it or they can accomplish it, and to show that it's possible and that she's living this beautiful life with supportive people around her and this creative outlet. And it's honestly, it was just a beautiful process to be a part of. And it was exhausting, as everything else is, and to organize everything and to keep budgets down, to make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, it is a nonprofit, and we're using money that's not like the giant budget that you would want for this film, but getting it done was such a reward. And then there's you know, a trailer that premiered at their annual fundraising event, and then it's gone to different festivals around the world, and it's just something really cool to be a part of. To be a part of her telling her story was just really cool, and I felt lucky to be a part of it.
Were there any pressures to telling her story and making sure it's accurate, or were you just you knew that this is what she wanted, or you knew this is how she would want the story to be told, or, you know, what kind of pressures came with telling that kind of story?
Well, not too many, surprisingly, because she wrote it. So it was really like getting what she wanted on paper. And we worked with Jeff Lorch as a story editor to kind of tweak and help refine it. But at the end of the day, it was her story. And so while from a film perspective and from like a producer perspective, there were tweaks that I would have loved to make to like help the story flow a little bit more. That wasn't the point of it. So the point was to make sure that her story, her words, her creativity got out into this project. And that's what's shown through. So, you know, I'll be the first to admit that it's not a perfect film, but it's a beautiful story and it's hers. And that's what really was important, to make sure like that everything along the way, and you could see her face light up, like, you know, when there would be like the set was built and it's like, Alani, do you approve this? And it's like everything she got to touch and be a part of, and that's the point of it. So from a like film perspective, it didn't follow like the exact story structure that like, you know, your standard film would be, but it was, so the pressure was off in that way. It wasn't to be filmed for festivals or to be filmed for the glory. It was to be filmed to tell her story the way she wanted it authentically told. And that was why it was cool.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's also a story that needs to be told because, you know, it could inspire other people that are facing the same challenges as she did.
Exactly.
So my favorite part of this whole podcasting experience is, you know, A, the interview, and B, just getting it released out there for people to know.
Yeah.
What has been the most rewarding part for you in, you know, being in this film industry as a producer, and what would you say is your favorite part of the whole shebang-a-bang?
Oh man.
That's a big one. That's a biggie, I know. So you could
Yeah.
maybe take one at a time.
I would just,
We can use this film as an example if that helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess just like actually doing it, you know, like there's so much in life that you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. Or, you know, you hear from people that like, oh, when I was younger, I had a dream of doing this. And to actually be doing it, like doing something that I didn't even really know was a thing. Like when I was stage managing back at Young Artists, it, you know, you saw the staff producing the show. You saw real adults producing things and making things happen. And you were just like, you were that piece that helps the puzzle keep moving. But to know that like, it doesn't matter how old you are or what your true experience is if you can prove that you can do it, and you can find those people who will allow you to prove that. That's been the coolest part of everything. Like, people still are like, wait, how old are you? Like, what do you mean we gave you our whole season last year and you were what? Like, and not in like a bad way, but just like a surprised way, and knowing that like people did trust me with that because it's how I presented myself, because the opportunities presented itself. Like, I am not blind to the fact that like I come from LA. So I already had this opportunity of being in LA the moment college hit, and then finding those connections. And I was connected with IAMA because I had a side job serving at parties, at private events, where I met a family who introduced me to them. And I built a 4-year relationship with this family before I even asked about their relationship with theater companies, because I knew she owned a theater company. And you take the time to actually build genuine relationships. And it all circles back to that, is like, without the genuine relationship, if I, on the first day of serving, like at their Christmas party or whatever it was, to be like, oh, I hear you own this playhouse, like, tell me more. Or like, do you mind if we grab coffee or whatnot? Then it turns into just like a networking thing. But now I have a relationship with her and a relationship with this theater company. And I love Micah, and like I'll babysit her kids sometimes. And like, it takes time. It takes time to build that foundation in those actual relationships. And sometimes you don't have the luxury of that. And I recognize that I'm lucky that I was able to build that relationship for the 4 years that when I was home from college, I would work and I met this family. So when I got out of college, I had this foundation. But it's not something that everyone has. And I recognize that. And so that's important for me to have recognized that I didn't get here on my own, and to see when people come and reach out to me, how can I help them too? And knowing that like the reason that I put my whole history on LinkedIn and my website and all of that, yes, so I can put it on job applications. And so I can also it helps me track and remember what shows I've done by scrolling through. But it's also because like, if someone sees that I'm a part of IAMA theater company and they come from Duck TV and from Oregon and they want to know more about the theater scene, then I can talk to them about it, and they know they can reach out to me, and then I can be helping someone else like I've been helped. Like, the foundations that I've gotten my whole career didn't just happen, like someone's helped me get there. And so I think that that's also something that's like been the coolest realization of LA also, is there are people willing to help. It's not just every man for himself, and you've got to find those people that are willing to do that.
Oh, yeah, it's also it's the journey to finding anyone. It's always kind of exhilarating because whether it is trying to date in this crazy pandemic world now, you're trying to find someone to have like a conversation with, or just share interest with, or if it's just trying to find someone to go to the bar with, that's now practicing social distancing and all the safety measures and all that. So I'm for you to be able to want to help those and and be the kind of mentor type, that speaks to the kind of character you have. Just wanting to make sure you see the ones succeed that come after you. Not saying that your time is done in the business, but just making sure it's gonna always have a good sustaining life. But you did mention that you didn't have any, like, I wouldn't say doubters, but just they're surprised. How good did that feel to prove them and be like, yeah, I'm this old and I just did this and I just helped produce this. Come on, you got to brag a little bit.
I mean, well, yes and no. Like, again, am I proud of where I've gotten so far? Like, of course. Like, I think that it's amazing, but it all again relates back to the foundations and all of that. So I'm not like, I don't ever want to be one of those people that's like, look, I've got in this theater company and I produce all of it. And it's like, well, how did you get there? Like, what's the true way you actually became a part of this? Because you didn't just like walk into their company one day. So like, the bragging about it's still a little new to me. But I mean, no one's like questioned me beforehand. So it's always it's always been a thing where like after I did something, then they kind of like find out how old I was. So I have this foundation of like, yeah, but I did it anyway. Like, isn't that exciting? Like I did it. If
Right.
someone in the beginning was like, do you want to produce this show? Yes. Oh, wait, hold on. Like, how much experience do you actually have?
Mm.
That might have messed with me. That might have gotten in my head. And I might not have done the same job, or I might have backed out. You never know how that anxiety is going to play a part in it. So all of these people, all of whom I'm true friends with, throughout this whole process, they just are still like, oh my God, I can't believe like you're this old. And that does feel good. Like knowing that the amount that I've pushed has been worth it. It feels, really great. So I'm really, it's great. It's a lot. It's a lot of pressure too, but it's
Yeah.
great to know that I'm here.
Who do you go to not maybe not in the same industry as you are, maybe like a family member or loved ones? Who do you go to kind of help get that pressure off your chest, to kind of just talk out all your anguishes and frustrations? I know. Oh, you said the friend that you went to the ice cream museum with. Would she be the one, or is someone else?
She's definitely one of the ones. So Leslie, my best friend who lives, in my old hometown, and she's actually moving about 10 minutes away from me in January. So I'm excited for that. Of course, social distancing protocols and all of that in place. But my other best friend is Mary, who lives in Oregon, who I met in college. And, it's a solid mixture between the two of them, because they each, you each have friends for like different needs,
Mm.
and so I think that Mary is really great at kind of virtually slapping me in the face and being like, what do you like, go back, like stop, like she's not, there's no bullshit.
Mm.
She's always been someone who's like really easy to tell even dumb things that I've done, because she's going to make fun of you for it in the most loving way. And like, that's how you know that you've now accepted this dumb thing that you've done. Or she just like yells at you. And that's the best thing, is we are such different people. Like, I don't know how we're friends. Like, I truly don't. And that's the balance that being in this LA world, that's like, go nonstop, fight your way to the top, blah, 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 all of this LA stuff. And then you've got this balance of someone who can see the outside perspective of it and knows you so well that she just brings you back down to like, well, what's truly important? And that's, really what gets me by is her. And then Leslie, of course, because, we can actually physically see each other nearby since she's in California, and then like, just watch dumb movies or eat junk food or whatever it is. And she
Yeah.
helps take my mind off of it.
Yeah, because you are, from what I was able, not just this interview, but just what I was able to gather about you on all your social medias, because I do a full-on social media stock leading into these interviews. You're such a busy lady. You're always having something going in motion, and I'm sure with this pandemic, you probably didn't slow down too much, just a little bit. So it's good that you have that friend that can help you unwind, but how do you keep this balance of trying to be as much of a force in the film industry or the acting industry, or just any kind of, I guess acting industry is the best way to summarize it all. How do you keep that balance of trying to be the strongest force you can in that industry, with trying to just be a woman in her 20s trying to live a life in LA and trying to enjoy the fact that you are in a sunny state and trying to enjoy the nice weather you always have? It's cold in Oregon, so I'm a little frustrated that I don't have that sun.
I mean, the balance is something that I'm still learning, if I'm just being completely honest. I overload my plate a lot. Again, this goes back to everything. Like, I know how to ask for help, but at the end of the day, right now, I have like 4 side projects that I'm working on for producing things on top of my day job, on top of helping a friend who's in my bubble babysits because they need extra help. So it's a lot. And it's the balance where like I will overload myself, and then as projects get completed, I try to take like a break then. but also constantly reminding myself, and this is like something that I don't do all the time, but I constantly try to remind myself, is that it's not a race and it's not a competition. And I think that's the hardest thing as of late, is to look at friends and to be genuinely happy for them and to practice that genuine happiness of like, you got this new job, you got this part on this TV show, you won this daytime Emmy, like whatever it is, to be genuinely happy. Because there's so many times, and I'm guilty of it too, but there's so many people out here where like your first thought is, well, yeah, but I could have gotten that job. Or like, why didn't I get that job? Or, well, how come you got that part in the TV show and I didn't? And it's so easy to get caught up in that. And that drives the need to have more projects and to constantly stay busy. And that's so bad for your mental health. And so practicing being able to be genuinely happy for people and to be like, that's not my journey. Like someone just told me about their job yesterday or 2 days ago. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like, you're already this, like, that's how did you get this job? And I was like, wait, no, like, that's not even something I want. Like, that's not even a job I want. Like, genuinely be happy for them. And it changed the whole conversation. And I left feeling amazing because I was so happy for my friend. But if I had gotten caught up in that, like, oh, so like, how'd you get that job? You get so like bogged down because it's constantly competition. So the balance aspect really comes down to like your mental ability to not cause the competition, you know, like not to feed into the competition, and to know that what you're doing is enough because you're putting everything you have out there. And then to also take breaks because you need it mentally, physically, emotionally. So it's a lot, and still learning. It's still a lot of learning and balancing all of that because I'm not good at that. And I'll be the first to admit it. Like right now I'm overloaded completely and I'm exhausted. And I know that 2020 is going to end. And so 2 of my projects are going to be wrapped. And then I just have these 2, and I'm practicing saying no to projects that don't pay or speak to me. But if something truly was like phenomenal that I'm like, no, I have to be part of that, but you don't pay, you know, you can say yes, of course, and find that balance. But to be lucky enough to be at that point in my producing career, which sounds crazy as like I'm only 4 years out of college, to be able to say no to projects because I know my time is able to get me certain places because of what I've established is a really incredible feeling. And I feel lucky enough to recognize that, and to learn to say no is how to start that balance again. Every time this like plate gets too overloaded and I start dropping off projects, I try to take a break, or I try to say no to more things, or, you know, find a weekend away, or whatever it is to refresh. So balance is a tricky one.
How did it feel saying no for the first time?
It felt great and scary. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it goes back to that feeling of what am I missing out on?
Yeah.
You always have that, like, if I had done this, and like I said no to a play that got into this like next level, like festival type thing in LA, because I was doing a different one that I really wanted to do. And then I looked at this play and I was like, oh my God, like I could have gone to this festival. Like, what did I do? Like doing this. And that's the, like, once you have that thought, you have to be able to push that out and just be happy for them. And then look at what you've done. And even if this was the wrong mistake, like even if you looked at this and this was the crappiest production, you're like, I should have done this. You always learn something from this, from saying whatever you said yes to and saying no to this. So it all goes back to that balance of like, you have to mentally like separate yourself from things, because it was true. I looked at this other production, it was phenomenal, and it went to festivals, and I was like, oh man, like I should have just done that. Like that would have been easy enough to like, you know, go to this thing. And then I looked back at this show, and it was a reboot of a show that had already happened, and one that I loved, and one that I was excited to be part of. And because I did this, I got into the other theater company, and I got into the, you know, like it all balanced out. So it's the snowball that you didn't know was going to happen. So that's, yeah.
But that kind of competition when it comes to like, oh, you got this, how'd you get this? I can get this. That can also be healthy. Like if you were to, let's say, I don't know if you ever met Jessie Price when we worked at Duck TV together, or I guess interning, not really working, but she did sports. And I remember seeing her at the Nike employee store one time. And I was just like, she was an employee. I was like, how I could do this. And then I got myself, and with that kind of motivating drive, it got me a job with Nike, and I was able to be, within the within the company as just a retail athlete, but still I was in the company, foot in the door. It all
Yeah.
comes full circle, Lexi, all full circle.
Yeah.
So, because what you're doing now for work, it's one of the most ways, I guess the strongest way I can be like, how did she get this? So you currently are the post-production coordinator at ABC Studios. How? This is insane. I was like, what? Some of the shows I've like seen on your IMDb page, I'm like, I love this show. This is what?
Well, actually, I think all the IMDb shows are from the visual effects company. I have yet to actually go through and update the ABC stuff, even though there is a lot of overlap because we worked on the Shondaland shows, and now my friend is the manager for the Shondaland shows, so it does all overlap somehow. But it's all about luck, timing, and right place, right time, and just having that, like, I can't describe it other than luck, really. Like, I had actually applied to this job on the Disney website and didn't hear back from them. And then I'm a part of like, a bunch of different industry Facebook groups. And one of them had like a post that was like, seeking post-production coordinator, like for a large studio, like email this person with your resume. And I was like, whatever, I'm applying to a bunch of different jobs, throw this at the wall too. And it happened to be for this position, but I didn't know at the time. And I found out later that my resume through the website had gotten rejected, like through whatever robotic system they looked through to, like, whatever it was that didn't like the words I used, whatever. But I got the job because someone actually saw my resume. So it all comes down to being a part of that specific Facebook group, seeing it at the right time, getting my resume in before it closed, because I think after like 20 applications, they closed the thread or whatever it was. Like, it was all luck. And also knowing that I had the background to do it. So the confidence going into the job interview was like, this is my job if I want it. Like, yes, it's at ABC. So like, what's the pressure associated with that? But really, like, it's not an issue because I know I can do the work. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It was just a lot of luck and a lot of timing. And it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Now, to my knowledge of ABC, there's, I think, maybe one or two like super long-lasting shows that are like, let's say 10 plus seasons. So Lexi Sloan, I'm going to openly admit that I have seen some Grey's Anatomy. I know there's a Lexi Sloan in the show. You're not the same person, but when you got the job with ABC, were you thinking of any of these like shows you watched growing up and like, wow, I'm going to be in the same studio that help get these shows up on the screen?
I think that it's just, words are really difficult. It's such a disassociation in my brain. Like I went with my friend to watch, a pilot being filmed last year or 2 years ago, whichever one we were assigned to. And you see like, Hannah Simone walking by, or Leslie Odom Jr. walking by, or Kerry Washington. And it's just like, these are just like people. And you realize that they're just people. So like, I don't really get like the starstruck excitement. Like I think I certainly would. No, that's actually not true at all. I just lied to you completely. I saw the Jonas Brothers on the Disney lot, like probably about a year ago. And like, I was with my friend at the time too, and he still makes fun of me to this day. And I saw them and I just like froze, and I was so excited because I think I had like just gone to the concert at the Hollywood Bowl or something. Like it was all like very close timing. And it was so exciting. But but as far as like TV shows go or whatnot, like I don't really have the like to my knowledge. There's no one that if they were to walk by me, but it's also like I walked onto set and my friend who's at I Am a Theater Company is friends with Kerry Washington, and he was on set just visiting for the day. So I said hi to him, and then she was right next to us talking. So she came over to talk to us. So it was like maybe the association of being with him, talking to him, and then she came up. Like it wasn't like her coming up to me and be like, oh my God, that's Kerry Washington. It was like, oh, I'm talking to Adam. And then, hey, Kerry. Oh, did the internet cut out? I don't know.
Oh,
Sometimes
I got you though. You're back.
great. But, so I think when I first got there, like, you walk through and right next to like our post area is like 3 airplane seats from Lost and like a framed jacket from Grey's Anatomy and like some sword from some TV show. And like, maybe it's because I didn't really watch these shows. Like I never really was a like hardcore fan. I didn't really grow up watching them. Maybe that's where the disassociation came from. But I was never like, I was more excited because I could get into Disneyland whenever I wanted. Like that was like, oh my God, I finally made it. I can get into Disneyland. And less about like, I'm filming on these shows. And you walk around the lot and like they're filming Blackish right now. And I went to the lot the other day to like pick up some HD cams, and you see people walk by you and you're like, oh yeah, that's that one guy from that show. I think just being immersed in LA, especially with this theater company, like that overlaps with TV so much. And you see so many of these, like Eugene Levy and Sarah Levy came to one of the shows I produced because Sarah's dating one of the actors in the show, like, and you look and you're just like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. That adds up. And it turns into like right. That's LA type joke. And there's like, so many jokes around LA where when you're at the coffee shop and you're staring at someone for too long, you're like, do I know you because I've been in like a class with you, or do I know you because you're on a TV show? And you never really know. And that's LA. So I don't know if I ever got the starstruckness of being at ABC, but I was excited for sure the first few weeks, just like I did it. But
you made it. Hooray.
Yeah.
That makes sense because, for let's say if I were to visit you and then we go to the studios, I'm going to be starstruck like crazy because I'm like, I'm, I see you on TV. I see you on TV. I see you on TV. But for you're immersed in this environment. You see it every day.
Yeah.
You don't see them as those celebrities that, I see them as someone in Oregon on Instagram feed or any kind of social media feed. You just see them as their normal, like, man or woman trying to make a living for their child or just trying to be good people.
Yeah. Like when I'll take Leslie on set or when I take her to Disneyland or whatever it is, she gets excited over certain things. And that's when I really see the impact of like what I get to do, because I'm like, oh yeah, like that is cool because I got to do this thing. Yeah. So it does have its moments of reality where I realize this, but at the end of the day, being in LA is such a different feeling. You just live it differently.
You're breathing it.
Yeah, you just breathe it differently.
You're breathing it with your mask and being social.
Yeah.
See? We got to always twist it back to that.
Yeah. Stay safe. Stay at home, kids.
So you have an amazing career so far with, the film and also on the stage, and you're doing great things with production. But something I found out about you that I was just like, I need to know more about this. You were a part of a program called Semester at Sea. Where I looked into that website, it's like you do actually spend a semester going into different kinds of, I think, ports in Europe, I believe, for like maybe like 3 months, 4 months. How was that? A, and B, like, wow, that is probably something not openly available because of COVID, but
yeah,
would that be something like, just talk to me about that whole scenario, the whole experience.
So that again is something that I was lucky enough to do. And I recognize that was like a crazy experience that I was fortunate enough to find the funding for and to be able to go on. So I just want to flat out start out with that. That was so crazy. Like, so my stepbrother did it like 6 years before I did. So he's actually the reason I learned about it. But you are basically just on this giant floating campus with like 300 classmates, and you go port to port, and you go, we started in Europe and we went around and we touched South Africa, and we were supposed to go further into South Africa, but that was right around Ebola. So that was, we couldn't go there. And then we crossed the ocean and ended up in South America, and then up to Cuba, and then ended in Florida. So we kind of did like a huge loop around. And that was crazy. Like you would spend, anywhere from 2 to 4 days at each port, and you would just get off the boat, and you can either come back and sleep at night, or you can literally just like take your bag and go as far as you can for 4 days and then come back. As long as you make it back before the ship leaves, like, and you don't get arrested in this country, like you're fine. And you're just a tourist and learning, and you would learn while you're on the ship, and you would take different classes. Like you would take just some regular classes, but then you would also take classes associated with wherever you're going. So I took like an African dance class. And then when we were in, it was supposed to be Ghana, but we ended up doing it when we were in South America. We took a class with someone who lived there, and they like taught us their whole dance, and they showed us the food, and they showed us around this giant, like it was just crazy. Like it's such a crazy experience that like I got to do this, and then with my classmates who were studying this culture with them, and then we get to go out with our class and we take this culture, and I don't know, like it just opens up your eyes to so many different things. And of course you're still doing it with like a bunch of privilege, because you're getting off this ship into like these certain ports where you don't really have enough time to fully immerse yourself in it. So you kind of are just playing tourist, and then you come back and you just like, you have to hope that everybody got like at least a little bit of something out of the culture to come back and better themselves with, and to create more just worldliness out of it. So I mean, it was amazing. It was a crazy experience. 300 students. You can do what you want when you're not on the boat. And I have one of my great friends who lives in Georgia now, and you have friends from all over the world. Because it's not just US, it's mostly US students, but it's not. Like there was one guy from Egypt, and he like has an Instagram travel page, and like it's just crazy. Like I don't know, it's just such a weird experience. And you're like hanging out with your professors when you're not in class. Like you just have lunch with them, or you catch them in the pool with you, or you play basketball with them, like, or you see them when you're hanging out in Russia. Like all of a sudden you turn the corner by this giant like castle, and you're like, oh hey Mr. blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, it just happens.
It happens.
It just happens. It's such a crazy experience. It was wonderful.
Now, I'm not going to ask you about what you found was like the most interesting parts of the whole trip, because that's just a whole nother podcast, because there's so many questions I want to branch out from there. But what would you say is let's fast forward to like 2021. COVID's over. This semester at sea program is back up and going. What is your pitch to people that see this and could be interested but still on the fence?
I mean, if you have, the ability to, then do it. You won't regret it, because unless you get super seasick, which I do get super seasick, and you just want to be like, there's ways around it. They got medicine, they got all of these things. So just do it. You learn so much, you see so much, you make friends in such a strange way, because you're forced to, like, you're all in such close living quarters. I just think that everyone should, if you have the opportunity to do it, because you can't really go wrong. You get to see a bunch of different cultures, meet people you would never have met before. They always have what they call field programs. So if you're not comfortable with like going out and exploring on your own, you can just sign up for a field program every day. And that way you're going out for 3 or 4 hours with like a guide, and they've planned things for you. And so it's for even the most like anxious traveler. Like if you don't want to plan things on your own, they've got things for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it was just such a unique experience that really opens your eyes. If you allow it to, you can really change your whole life.
Oof. And I gotta say, this has actually been a unique experience getting to talk with you and finally getting to, hear more about you outside of what I see in Duck TV and social media. But to end my interviews, we're gonna go a little more unique. So I have this list of 170 hypothetical questions. I'm only going to ask you two. I'm not going to ask you all of them. Or if you do, that could be another podcast as well. Look at that. We'll have 3 lined up by the end of this whole thing.
Right.
So my first question to you is, it kind of ties along with all this traveling you did for the semester at sea. If someone left you a cottage somewhere in the countryside in their will, where would you want the cottage to be located?
Wow, that is so polite of them. I don't even know them.
Call it Fancy Uncle Rick.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Uncle Rick. I would love either Ireland or France, like the outskirts of France. There's a little city called Etretat, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and French speakers everywhere hate me. But what else is new? It's the most magical place I've ever seen. Like, I like to describe things that like as fake. Like, this place was just fake looking. Like, the glass was just, or the water was just like this. It's this oceanside seaside town. The water was just perfectly stilled, even with some wind, and the beach leading up to this was all these beautiful little pebbles, and everyone in the town was just so nice. And it was just like one of those cottages that you see in like those Hallmark movies that you're like, oh, that's such a cute like town. I can't imagine that's a real place. Or like it was in like New England type thing. And it was just so pretty there. I can't even describe it. And they had like these cliffs that you could walk up to and just overlook this like fake air. Like, it was just fake. It was so beautiful. So if I could live there, I think that would be insane.
So you're not talking like fake as like the insult. Usually, like fake is now being used.
No,
like fake as in like it's
that,
staged.
yes, that means fake as in absolutely unreal, beautiful, cool. Like those fake clouds in the sky when they're just look perfect, like little Pixar clouds.
Yeah.
I'll stop like whoever I'm with and be like, oh my God, these clouds are so fake. It just looks crazy, unreal.
You're taking that word back. You're like,
I've taken a lot of things and I've changed it, and probably gonna get me in trouble one day. But
I mean, we sent. I don't think I've sent you my NDA, so I think unfortunately you might get a little screwed with this episode. What is?
Add it to the list of things.
Add it to the list. Did you ever see Thor Ragnarok?
I think so.
Yeah, or maybe
I'm so bad with movies.
No, I'm sorry. It's the Avengers, the last one.
The one where they all die?
The one after that, so they're basically the new for Marvel fans. So Thor's homeland gets destroyed in, I believe, the 3rd movie, and then he is relocated to this beautiful countryside. I'm not sure where it's supposed to be.
Is that the one where his hair is now too long, and then they have to go and they fly there, or they poof there or whatever, and then they come back and they're like, that's not the one where they all die?
The one where his hair is too long, that is like the last one. So
then I've seen it.
Endgame.
Yes,
Endgame.
I've seen that one where they have I don't need to describe the movie to you. You know what it is.
So that land that they dubbed as their new home, I think that'd be a beautiful place to set up a cottage and just have an overlooking a nice flowy hills.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Ireland. It just looks just picturesque and beautiful. So I'd do there too.
Yes. Yeah. My last one. What cartoon world do you wish you could live in for a week?
Like, the only thing that's coming through to my mind is Hey Arnold, and like that's not even like I don't think I'd like want to live in that world, and I haven't seen that show in like 10 years, but I don't know why that's the only cartoon coming into my mind right now.
You know what's insane? That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Right. Then that's it's like if I could pick the football with football head, and what was her name? Was it Heidi or Angelica? No, Angelica was Rugrats.
Olga.
Olga. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
That's such an ugly
Olga
name
sounds.
for a kid.
Well, she was mean.
That's true. It's true.
So I could probably get Olga into some shape in a week. Just
Oh,
slap some
oh,
sense into her,
there
and
you go.
her and Football Head would live beautifully together. I don't know.
It was that show, and I was tempted to say Courage the Cowardly Dog, but that would just be
Mm.
horrifying. That'd be horrifying. Like, nope,
Yeah,
nope.
yeah. I just don't need that. Or like, ooh, what's that? Ooh, Fairly Odd Parents. I
Oh,
changed Fairly Odd Parents, but like where I have the fairies.
you're Timmy.
Yes. Well,
Ah,
yes, because I would be Timmy and I would use the superpowers in such better ways. Like why he doesn't just like get rid of Vicky,
yeah,
I don't understand.
yeah. Or I think that's the main question. It's like, why are you going on this like extra wishes when I'm sure Fairly Odd Parents, the fairies, they only have a set amount of wishes they can grant.
I don't know the
I don't
logistics
know.
of it, but I choose Fairly Odd Parents as long as I get the fairies.
That's a solid answer. That's a solid answer. Lexi Olson, where can the people find you on social media?
You can't.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
You cannot.
Find you.
Can't. You can't.
Is it? Oh, right. The NDA. Oh, my
Yeah.
bad. That's a great answer. That was the first time I've ever got that response.
um, I mean, I have Instagram and Facebook, but like I really only post it when there's like theater things that I need done and like or like things reached out to. So you're welcome to follow me on social media on Instagram. It's either L Sloan 3 or Lexi Sloan 3. I don't really remember. Um, but it's me. And then I just post on there like once a 6-8 months when I've got like theater things going on, or if I see like a post that just really is like, yes, that makes sense. Like lately, especially these last few months of like the stay at home and here's updates on like where the world is at type thing. Those I'll repost on like stories, but as far as like post goes. And that was a 3-minute plug as to why you should not follow me on social media because that was the world's worst plug.
But keep an eye out for all of her I guess her productions. I keep wanting to say films with Ima and Emho. It's like these are not films, these are plays. So keep an eye out for anything coming out of those two production groups. How about that? That
Yeah,
sounds much
perfect.
better. Much better. But we did it. We
We
did
did
it.
it.
We
We
did
did
it.
the thing.
We did the thing. Oh man. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the episode. So if you would like more episodes from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a video version is available on YouTube. But if you would like to keep up with KC Media and Keoni Chats, go ahead and follow us on social media. The handles are KC Media 13 on both Twitter and Instagram. And then on Facebook, it'll be Conluke Media. But if you would like to be a guest, go ahead and email me at kcmedia13@yahoo.com. And I'd love to hear your story and I'd love to get you scheduled. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.